What started on the drawing board became a trophy. Engineers at Federal Premium Ammunition designed the trophy-bonded tip bullet to deliver devastating, bone-crushing performance. With a translucent polymer tip and boat tail design, Trophy Tip provides flatter trajectories and improved accuracy. Plus, a solid copper shank jacket and bonded core mean high weight retention and deep penetration. Trophy Bonded Tip from Federal Premium Ammunition. Claim your trophy.
From the Deer and Deer Hunting headquarters here in Iola, Wisconsin, welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to Deer Talk Now. I'm Dan Schmidt. I'm going solo with you today. Brad Rux is out in Kansas. He's hunting with a muzzleloader early season. Wishing Brad good luck. Haven't heard from him yet, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but we got our season kicked off here in good fashion this past week. I was in North Dakota, did not score in North Dakota, but we had a heck of a lot of good times and some great video to bring to you here shortly. Also, Brad was in Kentucky. He didn't score either, so we kind of got shut out from a deer perspective on those first two trips. But I redeemed myself, came back here. Opening weekend of archery season was here this past weekend, and I put a nice doe in the freezer. You can check out my blog on it. A couple new products that I use that we've been talking about here at Deer Talk, right there on the Deer and Deer Hunting website. It's my Whitetail Wisdom blog. Going to be bringing you an update every day this week, and then as we get into the season here, we're going to bring you even more good content there on the Deer and Deer Hunting site. But we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We have a really good show for you today. A special guest is going to be calling. We're going to be calling him. It's Terry Rohm from Tink 69. We're going to be talking about early season food attractants for bow hunting and for gun hunting, and also we're going to be talking about more on mock scrapes and actually doctoring existing scrapes, because we're going to be thinking about that here pretty soon. It's already middle of September, and we're going to be thinking about scrape hunting here before too long when the pre-rut gets rolling. Everybody has been really good, and I have to thank everybody about sending questions. I just checked the Gmail this morning, and we have tons of questions from all the Deer Talk viewers. We want to thank you. Keep bringing them to us. We're going to stockpile all these questions. So if you asked a question this week, we're going to try to get to it at some point during the season if we can answer it for you. But I'm going to answer some of them right away this morning, right here before we get Terry on the show. And again, you can send them to us via my email address, via the Gmail address on the website. Facebook is a huge and easy way to do it. Just go to the Deer and Deer Hunting Magazine Facebook page. Just type it right there on our page. Post us a question. Say, hey guys at Deer Talk, want you to answer my question. We'll try to answer it. Twitter, at Deer Hunting Mag, Pinterest, Google+. We have it all in store for you. So try to get us your questions. We'll try to answer anything you throw at us. It gives us a challenge, and we like to do that here at Deer Talk. I have 4 questions that came in since last week's show, and I want to take them right away here before we get our guest on the line. The first one is from Brian Trebald. Brian, thanks for emailing us your question. And Brian's question was on early season hunting near bedding areas. And Brian asked, he said he's got some bucks patterned. They're sticking near the bedding areas in the morning, and it's the only time he's getting them on trail cameras is in the morning. And he wants to know how to hunt these deer. Brian, what I would suggest, and I would suggest for anyone who's trying to hunt near a bedding area, especially in the morning on an early season, is try to get to that stand really early. And what I mean by that is a good hour before daylight, and if you can hack it, even an hour and a half before daylight. And why you do that is you try to skirt that area, get into the stand without spooking too many deer, and you're going to try to catch those deer coming back from their feeding areas. And in farm country, what this means is a lot of these deer are on alfalfa now, they're on soybeans now, and they might be coming back to that bedding area right before first light. So if you get in there well before that, that gives you that opportunity to maybe skirt around that feeding area, get into that stand, and get those deer before they head back in there. That's about the only way that I know to hunt an early season spot in the morning. It's tricky. You got to make sure the wind is right. But if you get in there early, you have a chance of catching that deer. And people say, well, why do you go in so early? Why don't you just get there before first light? The reason is those deer normally move pretty slowly back to that feeding area. To the bedding area from the feeding area. And a lot of times if you try to get into that stand a half an hour before daylight, you're going to bust those deer and not even know it. They're going to know that you came in, you're going to bust them, they're going to be out of there, you're not going to see any deer, and you're going to wonder why. So that's why I try to do that. Brian, thank you for asking your question. Everybody who asks a question, as always, is going to get a free daily calendar, a 2015, a fresh one from us. It's an awesome little prize. Email me your address, and I will get this out to you. You got to email it to me because we're not going to remember otherwise. Let's try to get to 2 more here. I wanted to get to 4, but I'm checking my time here, guys, and we got to get Terry on here pretty quick. But let's take one from. This is an interesting one, and you didn't leave your name, so you're going to have to email me back. It came in at Tlon, T-L-O-N, emailed me this question. He's had some trail camera photos of deer that appear hairless or spots of hairlessness on them and wants to know what's going on here. It's interesting that you bring this up because I just had another situation where a fella, longtime deer and deer hunting subscriber, emailed me a picture, and I don't have the picture to show you, but we're going to have that here on the website shortly and in the magazine. But the buck looks completely hairless. And what's going on here is midge mites, highly contagious among deer. It normally won't kill the deer, but it's almost like a mange type of situation where the deer will lose all their hair. Now, this can affect the deer. They look really bizarre. I mean, pink, no hair on them whatsoever, kind of rough and ragged, leathery look to their skin. But that's probably what's going on. It's a midge mite situation, kind of related to mange. If a deer gets infected, yes, this could kill them, just like anything else, a coyote or a dog or any other animal that gets mange like that. It can get pretty bad, but it's a pretty weird thing to look at. In the 20 years that I've been here, I can't say that I've ever even seen cases like this, especially some of these dramatic photographs. Really bizarre. Nothing you can do about it. It's something that happens. Would I be concerned about eating that deer? I don't really think so, but what I would do is if you come across a situation like this, as if anything, just contact your local DNR agent or wildlife biologist. They're going to be able to give you some good insights, but more often than not, some kind of infestation like that, even if you get into papillomas or fibromas, which are these warty looking things that you see on deer, people say, whoa, that's gross, I wouldn't eat that deer. It's just a superficial thing. It doesn't affect the meat. But like I said, always double check to be sure if you run across a deer like that, or if you shoot a deer like that or whatnot. One other question, Colton Robeson, I believe it is. Colton wants to know how to age deer off of a trail camera. Not an exact science to this, but if you're getting trail camera photos of deer, it's pretty easy to take a look at a trail camera photo, excuse me, and tell if that deer's mature or not. A lot of times just off of antler characteristics. Is his antlers wider than his ears? Does he have decent mass? If he does, he's got really decent mass, just, pretty good, almost the size of your wrist. He's a mature buck, 3, 4, 5 years old. If he's got thin mass, he's probably, and he's almost to his ears, he's probably 2.5-year-old. But Colton, what I would do is I would look at the body on the deer. If he's fully chiseled, blocky, is not real sleek looking, especially this time of year. If you're looking at an early season deer, if he's real sleek and almost looks tight, real thin legs and almost like a thinner belly, it's probably a younger deer, probably 2.5-year-old buck. As these deer get older to 3 and 4 year age classes, they start looking a lot bigger. And as they start growing in their winter hair, they look a lot bigger. But I think if you're hunting mature deer, it's pretty easy to take a look and say, yeah, that's a mature deer, just based off of antler characteristics and the physical characteristics of his body, his neck, his stomach, his back, just look at his hindquarters. If he's nice and thick, he's a mature deer. And that's what we normally say is that if you're going to get a deer to 3, 4 years old, that's pretty darn good, and you got a pretty good management situation going in there. I said I was going to cut us off. I'm just going to give us one more question because I wanted everybody to get an opportunity to ask a question. And this comes from Kevin from Michigan. Feels like I'm running a couple miles an hour here. Kevin wants to know, he hunts public land, and he said there's a trail that goes through that public land that is used year-round by hikers, by birders, and whatnot. And Kevin wants to know, does this affect deer behavior, and how should he change his hunting patterns based off of this. Kevin, what I would tell you is yes, it does affect deer behavior. You might see activity of deer in that area, but as you're probably finding out, which I spent 20 years doing hunting public land, it's going to be next to impossible to hunt those deer, especially the bucks that you're going to want to hunt. They're going to know that people are using that area. Not to say that they're going to completely avoid it, but as deer get more human pressure, regardless, it's human pressure is human pressure. They don't necessarily equate it to hunting pressure. They just know that it's humans, and humans possess a danger. They're going to adopt, the older deer are going to adopt more nocturnal behavior. So you're going to probably not see those deer during the day. What I used to do when I hunted the northern part of our state, vast national forests, those walking trails can be awfully convenient to access some good deer hunting spots. But I would use those as my method of getting to where I wanted to go. So basically now you're looking at an aerial view. You can do this on Google Maps very easily, and you can scout that public land a lot faster than we used to back in the day with photos and topographical maps. Is you can look at that area and say, okay, just use it as a tool. I'm going to try to get farther off of that beaten trail, and I'm going to try to get back into some of those remote areas where some of these deer are probably bedding during the day. And if they bed there during the day, they are going to move. They're not going to sit down all day long. They're going to get up and move, but they're going to probably stay closer to that core area of that range. And that's what I would do. I would use it as a starting point. And then you always, if you're hunting public land, I always tell people you're behind the 8 ball to begin with. It's going to be you figure it's going to be 10 times harder for you than some guy who's got food plots and hunting private land. And you basically got to work harder and be smarter with your efforts. So it's going to be about wind direction. It's going to be about entering access points to where you're going to hunt. And it's also going to be trying to pinpoint, trying to figure out where those deer are going to be bedding during the day, where they're going to feed, if it's acorns, if it's native browse, whatnot. Try to figure those areas out and then plan accordingly. But to answer your question, Kevin, in a nutshell, use those public trails as your starting point to get farther out, to where you think you're going to be not bothered by other people, whether that's hunters or hikers or whatnot, and maybe you'll be able to sit all day without seeing anyone else. Then you're going to probably see more deer. That was quick, wasn't it, guys? That was quick. That was a quick way of answering 4 questions. All of you, Brian, Colton, Kevin, T-Line, whoever you are, you get a free whitetail calendar from us. Email me. The guys here are going to post that up on the screen, tell you where to email me. Email me your mailing address. We're going to get you out your prize. That's it for the questions for today. I want to tell everybody about our shop specials. One is going to be related straight to our guest, straight to Tink's. And we have all the Tink's products in Shop Deer on sale right now. 10% off. Just mention Deer Talk. Check out, pick out whatever you want, whether it's Vanish Scent Control, whether it's Tink 69, whether it's a Power Scrape or some of these hot shop products we're talking about. You're going to get 10% off your order. Just enter that in the checkout box. Deer Talk. Just type that in. You're going to get the 10% off. You can also call our operators and tell them you saw it on Deer Talk. They're going to get 10% off. The other thing that the Viking Hightail, you guys got to check this out. It's the field dressing tool. I used it again the night before last on that doe because I was by myself when I had to field dress that doe. Very, very makes it much easier. $34.95 on sale. You're definitely going to want one of these. I keep it in underneath the seat of my truck and just pull it out when it's time to field dress a deer. I thank the Waller boys for coming up with this idea because it made things a lot easier. Bless you, Tyler. And that's it for our shop specials. Just be sure to check them out, shopdeerhunting.com. Just click shopdeerhunting.com. Just click off to the side, go to the site. You're going to see all of our specials. Let's get Terry Rohm on the line, and let's talk about food usage for early season hunting and about getting our scrapes started.
Hello, Terry.
Terry, hi, it's Dan Schmidt, Deer and Deer Hunting and Deer Talk Now. How are you this morning?
Dan, I am just great. How are you doing today?
Doing great. It's a beautiful fall day here in Wisconsin. How's the weather down by you?
Well, you know, we're here. Tink's is here in Georgia, and actually last night I was out and set another a deer stand up, and I was soaked till I got down out of that tree from hanging it and stuff. So it's still pretty warm here, but you know, the acorns are falling, so deer are really scattered out right now. Persimmons are falling, so deer's really eating those mass crops right now.
They're really hitting the mass crops. I forgot that you guys are basically still into summer.
Yeah, it makes it kind of tough on a bow hunter. You know, you get up there and you go to pull up your bow and the sweat's dripping down off the end of your nose, but it's still fun. You got to get out there and get after them, you know.
You got to get out and get after them, and bow season's upon us. Was just talking just before we called you. We got ours started already. I was out in North Dakota last week. Brad was in Kentucky. Wisconsin started this past weekend. So things are rocking and rolling, and we're already seeing some nice bucks hitting the ground from some of these bow hunters.
Yeah, we've got a few emails here at Tink's and different pictures from different hunters out there. So, and hearing a lot of good things about big antler growth this year up your way.
Yeah, we had tremendous growing conditions, as I'm sure you did as well. A lot of rainfall this summer. We did have a dry July, but what we got in May and June and August is more than made up for it. And I think that's really helped with some of the things you talked about, the mass crops, food plots, farm fields, that kind of thing. A lot of good growth, and it's resulted in good antler growth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a second, Terry, because we're talking about you're talking like down there. You have a unique situation where you have persimmons and some of those other soft mass crops. Up here we have apples, we have wild grapes, and things like that. And deer really seem to key on those at this time of the year, don't they?
Yeah, Dan, it's a mass crop that doesn't stay around real long, and the deer know that. I mean, in some states here in Georgia, like our southern zone, it's legal to bait deer. In the northern zone, it's not. But you hear a lot of hunters complain in the southern zone, or they don't really complain. They said, "What happened to my deer? I had deer on my bait pile, but now they're gone." Well, the acorns are dropping, muscadines, which is a wild grape, are falling, persimmons are there, of course acorns now are falling. So these deer, they just leave those concentrated, or the food source they know is always there, if you will, and go to these food sources that they know is not going to be there real long, and they're real good. I mean, it's a different taste to them, it's a different smell, it's more attracting to them.
Exactly, and I was actually making that comment to my buddy when we were both bow hunting on this weekend, and he's got lush clover plots, he's got chicory, and I'm like thinking I'm going to be covered up in deer, and I wasn't. I saw 2 deer, and I asked him, I said, I bet you acorns are probably starting to drop. I know we have, there's some an old abandoned wild apple orchard on the neighbor's property, and I said, that's probably where some of these deer are. They've, like you said, it's a limited food source. They do have a sweet tooth for some of those things, and they're just going to gravitate to them for however long they're there.
Yeah, and from here in the South, we use a lot of lock-on stands because it's so hot. If you use a sit-down climber, stand-up climber, you get so sweaty getting up in there. But with lock-ons and ladders, you can go right up them. But the only disadvantage to that this time of year is you really need a climbing stand and start walking and looking for the food source, like the persimmon tree or the acorn tree they're really feeding on, or you need to find what them deer are feeding on and really walk and scout and hunt. And what I mean by that is you're walking, you're looking, okay, I found a persimmon tree that's a lot of deer sign around. I'm going to put up right here, right now. And versus a lock-on stand, you really can't do that right then real quick. But that's the way we kind of do it here.
Yeah, being flexible, and I actually learned that almost 20 years ago. My first hunt, it was to Alabama, and a couple of those seasoned bow hunters down there, they really taught me on how to key on what I call transitional food sources, because you have to be flexible, and it's almost like being a good turkey hunter is you've got to be able to adapt on the fly and hit the hot acorn tree when it's hot. If it's a white oak, if it's a red oak, or if it's, like you said, some kind of soft mash, you got to be able to be that flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Terry, we're talking to Terry Rohm from Tink 69. Terry, let's just give the viewers a little bit of a bio on you. How long have you been at Tink's, and what are some of the things you've seen in the past few years?
Oh, Lord, Dan, I've been here. Well, Tink's is over 40 years old. We're 40 plus years old, and seen the industry change quite a bit. But I've been here 25, 26
Wow.
years now, and to give your listeners out there, viewers, a little idea of how things have changed. When I first started working at Tink's, we didn't have computers. Not everybody in the office had a computer, and then one day we got a fax machine, and that was the greatest thing that ever happened. That's how far technology has come in 10 or so years, and I think I can say the same as the way you disperse scents. I think you can remember way back, and hunters still use them, the old film canisters.
Yep.
And so we've sort of evolved from the old 35 millimeter film canisters, because no one can get them anymore because everything's digital. But now we evolved into our scent bombs, with the reflective strip, and now we just finding better and better ways to disperse scent. And now we have our hot shots, which is an excellent way to disperse scent. So it's just been in the same way with bows and tree stands and all the new technology. You really sit back and think, well, who in the world sits down and thinks about this kind of stuff? And it's, to be honest with you, it's everyday hunters sitting in that tree stand. How can I make something better? And that's where we get all of it at.
Exactly, and it's congratulations on your time there at Tinks. You got me beat. A month from today, I'll have been here for 20 years, so you got a couple years on me at Tinks. Tinks, as everybody might not know, I believe started, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Terry, I believe started in 1972 by Tink Nathan, and deer and deer hunting, that's 5 years before deer and deer hunting started. Deer and deer hunting started in 1977, and Tinks was one of the first advertisers, national advertisers in Deer and Deer Hunting magazine, all the way back to the Stump Sitters. Just a great company. It stood the test of time. We're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to ask Terry a little bit more in the program about Tink 69, because that's basically the product that got that company started, and it stood the test of time. But let's back off on that. One thing I wanted to talk to you about first, Terry, and you mentioned it, it's this sweet weed new product that you've had. Well, it's been a year or more now that you've had it out there. I used this last year, and the baiting is now illegal where I hunt at home here, but I used this last year when baiting. I don't think this is actually considered baiting, but I'll just give you guys a quick synopsis of what happened. I was hunting a food plot that was planted in tall tine tubers, Whitetail Institute's tall tine tubers. The deer were actually hammering this food plot, but the wind was always wrong for the stand I wanted to sit in. And the deer were purposely skirting that stand. Well, what I did is I took this product and sprayed it basically just in the spot where I wanted those deer to come investigate, and sure enough, I shot 2 deer that weekend, and basically they came and they ate everything that I sprayed on there. What is in this sweet weed, Terry? And was I using it? Well, I think I used it correctly because I shot 2 deer using it, but that's kind of what it's meant for, correct?
Right. The hot shot food attractants, that's the big craze right now. I think, and what a lot of hunters are using is they want to find something else in this early season to use, and also in the late season. Around the rut, we got Tink 69. That's the number one go-to. That's really a no-brainer. But the food attractants in the hot shots are so easy to use, and what you want to do with them, and there's really no in a persimmon and in a turnip, there's no nutritional value. So really, they'd be legal, but in states where baiting is illegal. But you really should check with your local law enforcement officer and DNR and make sure, because each state's different. And like here in Georgia, we got different zones that's different. So you just want to be on the safe side there. But the hot shots work great from a tree stand or a ground blind. And a lot of hunters think, well, I don't have persimmons in my area. Well, you don't worry about that. These are so sweet and so attracting that deer, number one, deer love to eat, and they're curious. And when they can smell something that smells good and has their curiosity up, they're naturally going to come closer. And I guess the best way I can explain that is this past weekend we done a little outdoor buck blast here in Covington, Georgia, and I was spraying the persimmon, and everybody was standing back. But when they got a whiff of it, guess what they done? They came closer.
Got closer and wanted to be curious about what it was.
Yeah, they want to get a better smell of it, and it's the same thing with the deer. And what I like about them, Dan, is from a tree stand or ground blind, if you see deer going downwind of you, start misting it. And the mist, that technology is so light, the bag and can technology is so light a mist, it just drifts down through there, and it stops the deer, it could confuse them, it could turn them and attract them in, but and nothing's guaranteed. You know that. I mean, you get that old doe with a couple fawns, that's the smartest thing in the brush, and she's going to blow at you. But hopefully a buck or some other deer, and the hunting pressure isn't too great, it locks these deer up or get them to come to you, or at least get them to stop so you can judge them for a better shot, or if it's a deer you really want to take.
That's exactly, and you're talking about doe with 2 fawns. That's actually what I shot. The first deer I shot using this product last year was a doe with 2 fawns. She was circling that stand about 60 yards out. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Terry. I just want to show everybody that can. It almost looks like, I don't have enough hair to use moose, but it almost looks like a moose can. And it's, he said it's not an aerosol, it's a bag. So you're going to get 3 full ounces of the product in there. But what I did is when I sprayed that, I just kind of sprayed it along the edge of the food plot that went 25 yards in front of my stand. And getting back to your point, is when she came in that field 60 yards out, she stuck her head up her nose up in the air, and it was almost like somebody's baking a pie. And that's kind of, she just did that and walked straight over there, put her head down and started. She was eating nettles and all sorts of other things that I had sprayed it on. But it works. I don't know what you guys did here. It's a great product. Check it out. We have it at the store now if you want to check it out, but you can check it out anywhere Tink's products are sold. That's sweet weed. I know you have the persimmon, you have the turnip, but you also have some actual rut-based products that you sell in the same kind of canister, correct?
Right. We have in our hot shots, we have all the trophy buck, number 1, Tink's number 1 doe P, of course Tink's number 69. We have some moose products. We have a bear product called glazed donut that you could use actually inside your car for an air freshener if you wanted to. But the bag and can system, Dan, is unlike aerosols. The bag and can system has actually a full bag inside. It's newer technology, and all your product goes inside the bag, and then it's surrounded with compressed air. And as you disperse the top, that air presses on the bag, which pushes your product out. So like with aerosols, you're getting a propellant that's mixed with your product. So that's what you're getting. With Tink's Hot Shots and the bag and can system, you get 100% pure product mixed with no contaminants.
100% product. So essentially, you don't have to use as much of this as you would as if it was an aerosol product. Right,
and you're getting pure product, and the mist is so fine. 3 ounces lasts a long time. And like I say, and that I don't know if you ever used an aerosol paint can, and you're spraying it, and the propellant quits, and you got more paint in there, you can't get it out. Well, with the bag and can system, that pressure, you get literally almost 100% dispersal. I mean, just about every drop comes out of it.
Where can people?
So you got zero waste.
Where can people go and see this on your website, Terry?
Yeah, they can go to our tinks.com. We got information on there and all the different hot shots, and so it's just it's I guess our saying is Tink spray technology. It doesn't mix propellant with the lure. It sprays 100% Tinks. So it's you're getting what we say you're getting.
Very cool, very cool. Everybody check that out. Now let's talk, I know you're limited on time this morning, Terry. I wanted to also talk because a lot of us are thinking about October already, especially up here and I know it's a little bit delayed down where you're at in Alabama and Georgia and some of those other places south. But up here, a lot of guys are thinking about, the start of the rut. They're thinking about mock scrapes. Some guys are already making mock scrapes out there. getting cameras out there and getting some photos. Let's talk about scrape hunting a little bit. And I know there's another product that you have out that's relatively new that's called Power Scrape. What is that, and what's the timing that guys should be thinking about starting to get out there and do some of these things with it, whether it's a mock scrape or whether it's an existing scrape that's been there for a while?
Well, Dan, the Power Scrape, that was actually developed by another hunter in Ohio. I don't know how many years. It's probably been 6 years ago now. Come up with, it's a synthetic formula, indefinite shelf life. It doesn't smell real strong, and it's a clear liquid, like clear looking, but it is very effective on mature deer or bucks, getting bucks to scrapes. And over the years in testing, I mean, we're some TV partners out there, and we have some hunters right now starting after the 4th of July, when antlers are starting to really develop. You know, they're getting out there around their ears. You can see how many tines they got. They are starting their hit list already with Tink's Power Scrape and setting up mock scrapes with trail cameras. And that was really our idea here at Tink's around Power Scrape was, you know, we have the rut covered with Tink 69, but we need something for the early season, the pre-season, if you will. And what kind of products can we develop that make a hunter better, that you can find the deer you want to hunt, you can find the deer you want to let go for the season if you're managing big whitetails, or if you're just a guy like me that likes to shoot a bow and shoot a deer for meat. I just want to see what's there, and I know when he's coming, or I know when she's coming, or whatever. It just gives you that option with trail cameras.
That is a great, I mean, it's a great thing, and it's, I think an overlooked aspect of early season hunting is scrape hunting, because we know we've published many science-based articles on this, is that if you have established, I don't know how you want to call traditional scrapes, especially with a good licking branch, you can get those deer conditioned to coming back and checking that out. And it's not just bucks, it's does, it's yearlings, it's younger bucks, to keep coming back to that spot if they're passing through that area. Is that kind of along the lines of Power Scrape into capitalizing on that aspect of deer behavior?
Sure. I mean, that's the fun with trail cameras. It's and Power Scrape. It's actually like you're actually hunting, but you're just not pulling the trigger. And you can't wait to go out there and check those cameras and see what you got there. But Power Scrape just helps them get there. It helps them get in front of the camera. It actually helps you position the deer where you want them, and then you can position that tree stand where you need it. You know, and what I like to tell the hunters out there is, you know, make a few mock scrapes. And you mentioned licking branch or the overhanging branch. It's very, very important to a mock scrape. If you don't have that, you're really wasting your time.
Yep.
You got to have that overhanging branch. And that overhanging branch, I don't know about up there, Dan, but these deer down here, if you have it much over 3 foot or 4 foot, you're wasting your time because it's too high. The deer can't get to it. You want something the buck or doe can walk up there, raise their head up and neck and nose it a little bit with their nose.
That's a really good point, because a lot of guys will hang that way too high. They might hang it at head level or high chest level, and you know, you will get some activity, but as Terry's mentioning, the lower you have it, and if it's not an established scrape from last year and it doesn't have a natural licking branch, don't be afraid. This is a trick Charlie Alsheimer taught me many years ago. Just get yourself a stout branch of some sort and carry some twist ties in your pocket, and you can make one, or you can replace one that got busted off because deer chew on them, they pull on them, it falls off or breaks off, and then you don't have anything. There's not to say that you go out and find your own branch. A good sturdy oak branch will do, maple branch up here will do, apple branches will do because they like that. They will chew those off. But that's a really good point, Terry, is just to keep them interested in that spot as long as you can.
Well, you know, Dan, I think, too, hunters must understand you just can't go out and walk through the woods and make a scrape and expect Power Scrape to work. you have to really do your homework, look for those transition areas, because a buck just don't wander through the woods and make a scrape. Not a primary scrape, what we call a primary scrape. He has that scrape in that position for one reason, because other deer frequent that area. Does, other bucks, yearlings, whatever. They come through that area. That's why that scrape's there. It's not just walking through the woods, putting one down, and something's going to come in from all directions to it. He places them for a reason in the areas he does.
That's a good point, because especially primary scrapes, that's there. It's a communication hub, and that actually should tell you more than, oh, there's a spot here where I could possibly be hunting. The way I look at it is, this is actually telling me how deer use this topography. This is telling me where that buck's bedding area might be. Oh, might be telling me how he travels through a certain corridor to get to a food source. Those are the types of things that you should really be backing. I always say back out and think about this in a bigger picture. As Terry mentions, it's not just randomly walking through, oh, I'm going to put one right here. Well, why are you going to put it there? There should be a rhyme or reason why you're going to establish it where you establish it.
Yeah, and then with the power scrape, we have the mist or the spray, and then we have the drippers, Dan. And I know you've probably used some of the drippers, but really the drippers is another key to it. You hang it in the overhanging branch, and there's no batteries. It's pretty simple to use, and it works in barometric pressure. It creates a little pressure in there as the sun heats up in the morning. It creates that pressure, forces the drip out, and then as it cools off in the evening, the pressure decreases and it stops. So you're really getting, daylight drips only, and it's not really working at night. So, but the other key too is is getting that not hung up too far to where deer can get to it. And of course, the number one thing is human odor. You got to keep that away from it. So
keep your human odor away. And Tink has a whole line of scent reduction products. Let's just talk about those real briefly, Terry. What I know you guys have Vanish. You have a whole variety of scent control products.
Well, it's actually, Dan, called B-Tech now. It was a product developed over in Europe. It's a great product, but there's a lot of odor elimination out there. But ours was it's a patented formula and stuff. So it's a great product out there to use. And again, for all the hunters and maybe the novices out there, there's nothing you can really do to totally eliminate human odor, but you can greatly reduce it. And by wearing rubber boots and using an odor elimination product and just trying to reduce it helps a lot. But the other thing is the wind. I was in a stand Sunday morning and acorns falling everywhere. I mean, squirrels were up there cutting them down, and I just figured any second deer were coming. I felt the wind switch out of the north coming from your direction. I said, well, that's no good for this stand, so I just climbed down and got out of there because I knew right where that wind was going. That's where the deer were going to be, so I just left.
It's a great tactic, and that's a sign of a veteran bow hunter. There is sometimes you just have to call an audible, and if things aren't right, as much as you want to hunt, we all want to hunt. We want to be in that tree stand. It's counterproductive to be sitting in there if you know the wind's not in your favor, no matter what you're doing, no matter how many times you wash your clothes, how many times you take a shower, whatever else you might have in the stand with you to try to help with scent control, you still got to play it smart.
Yeah, and that was the hard part. Of course, I just got down and did a little scouting, but the wind was marginal anyway, and I knew I was pushing it. But when it turned and come out of the north there, out of your direction, I said, the guys up north ain't liking me right now.
Oh, it wasn't coming from me. That had to be like from Chicago or something. I don't know. That wasn't coming from Iola, Wisconsin. Well, Terry, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. I want to remind everybody, check out Tink's website because you're going to be able to find whether it is a food-based product you want to try for early season hunting or late season hunting, or we talked about the scent control, but also the rut products, the tried and true Tink 69. Check it out there, tinks.com. Terry, I wish you the best this fall. I hope you're going to put your tag on a nice buck here pretty quick.
Well, I appreciate it, Dan. Hey, where's that Brad at this week?
He's out in Kansas. How does that work? He's out hunting, and I'm here manning the ship. What's going on with that?
I don't know. You need to get something switched around there.
I think so. Well, maybe I don't know. I haven't heard from him yet, so I don't think he's got one. He might be getting bit by mosquitoes more than anything else.
Well, if you ain't got a selfie from Brad with a deer, he's not doing too good.
Something's not right. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Terry, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
All right, Dan. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye. Terry Rohm from Tinks. Terry is an icon in this industry, and actually I should have mentioned this before when we're talking to Terry. If you have gone to any deer show, whether it's a deer expo or a deer weekend or something, and there was a Tinks booth there, chances are over the years you might have met Terry. Terry is he's a tremendous bow hunter. He's one of these southern gentlemen who, a lot of these guys who learn how to bow hunt down there, it's a lot different than a lot of us in the Midwest. These guys take it serious, almost year-round activity. You're going to learn a lot. Terry's got some great tips up there on, just Google him. You're going to find YouTube clips on some of his hunting tips. You're going to find them there on Tinks, and a lot of great information. But we appreciate having Terry on the line. Before I let everybody go, just check out the specials at shopdeerhunting.com. Got a lot of great stuff there for you, and be sure you say you saw it on Deer Talk to get that extra discount. And a reminder, if you want your question answered, we're going to have a lot of just viewer question shows here in the next couple weeks. Facebook, Deer and Deer Hunting Magazine, Twitter at Deer Hunting Mag, Pinterest, Deer and Deer Hunting, Google+, email me, don't call, we get inundated with calls. But thanks for joining us for Deer Talk Now. I'm Dan Schmidt. We'll see you again here next week.